All right. Welcome to the stream tonight. Um, Good to see people here. Making sure I've got YouTube up and going. Twitch is up and going. All right, we seem to be doing well. Um, Before the stream, I updated some stuff. Let me page a couple of files here and just say that we upgraded dependencies. And there we go. So we are in a good place. Um, right now, we're gonna take a look at our game. Um, Yesterday, or not yesterday, it was Sunday. We spent some time talking about things. Um, I had an idea for a way to view entropy. Um, so I'm thinking about um, visualizing where the most likely place for changes to happen will be, and then visualizing what's changed and things like that. Um, so I'm excited about that too. I want to get to xState before we get there because it will allow us to change the way that we visualize the grid using a state machine. So yeah, we were able to solve this puzzle. We're good. If we reset, we should be able to just put in get errors. Yep, we've got errors going on. Great. Um, so I believe we're in a good place. There tonight, I think what I want to do is just finish testing. Um, because we're missing a whole bunch of tests. Um, and when we move to X state, we're definitely going to want tests. Um, make sure that things behave the way we expected them to behave. And as we move things around, we're going to want um, tests in place to help pin our functionality in place. I think that's where we'll start tonight is with writing some tests. Um, just looking at making sure that we increase our testing coverage. That would actually be an interesting thing to take a look at. Maybe we should do that just to start with. We can go ahead and we'll close this for now. So Zen updated, and I'm not sure. I would prefer this to be black, but I don't understand their color picker. Like it's not allowing me to get down to these darker colors, and I've tried changing this around, um, tried changing this stuff around, and so the best that I feel like I can get to is here. This texture seems to add some texture to the bar itself, um, but I really don't. I don't know. I need to figure out how to actually made it worse with what I did, which is frustrating. Um, let's go. I think it was like 4 degrees here. Maybe we'll just try 0. I don't know. 2. We can get it to be more blue. I don't know. Um, I need to figure out what's causing the issue. Um, but I would like this to just be a solid, like dark color. I don't like the blue around the edge. So, um, I don't know. We'll not worry about that right now. Even though my brain is like worry about it, worry about it, worry about it, figure it out. We'll move past that. All right. So we need to get some testing in place, and we were going to talk about coverage, right? Um, so let's see. Right. So with NX, we can run many. We can run our test, but then we can also pass it the coverage flag. We'll be able to see our coverage. Oh, rich, huh? It's going. It's going. Um, there've been some recent changes, but things are definitely going. How you doing, man? But anyway, oh, your name. Is that a commentary on me or yourself? Be my question. Um, but anyway, we ran our tests with coverage. Oh, there's a couple of other things I want to take a look at that I'm just reminding myself of right now. We can turn off the legacy caching pretty easily in NX and get rid of this message. But there's some other things we can do to remove some of the configuration files and go more towards Project Crystal with NX. So maybe we'll start there, but let's take a look at our coverage, right? Um, so if we go to our coverage directory, um, and let's look at like our libs, right? I don't know what that is, but just taking a break from coding because I can't get the start menu working. The start menu? Did you break your Windows or something? Um, but anyway, if we look at like our components, right? Um, and if we just open up like our index.html here, so we'll start this here and we'll grab our browser and we can grab that window and grab this index file and just put it over here. There we go. Here's a, oh, it's for your game. What am I up to? I'm trying to get my Sudoku game converted over to, um, and I wish we had a dark mode here, but we can't see. So I'm trying to get my Sudoku game converted over to xState, um, and take a look at, just the different stuff we can do with xState. Um, but before I do that, I want to make sure that we get our tests in place, right? Um, so like if we look at the components library, right? Um, only 60% of our statements are covered, and actually that's not too bad, but 27% of our branches are. And I'm sorry about the brightness, but if I turn it off, we can't read it. um, maybe I can configure some stuff here. Um, if I turn down the contrast, things start to show up. Can I reset this? Um, 'Cause it's not doing anything. Um, but put the contrast off, the brightness off. As soon as I go to a light mode, um, actually this light mode's not too bad. Um, it's probably less bright than it was before. Can I add sepia to it? And you know what? That's probably a little bit less harsh on your eyes, especially if you're in the dark. Um, so we'll leave it here. I don't mind this too much. Um, but anyway, our branching coverage is not good. And we can see that we have like 0% of our grid branches covered, and our solvers. Um, our cell is actually pretty covered. Um, and I love these coverage reports because you can dive into them and it's going to show you, where you're covered and where you're not. So, um, that's interesting. Very interesting that it says we've covered this function 9 times, but the inner function hasn't been covered. I'm curious how that happens. The other thing is like this if statement here. Um, that we've never taken this if statement in a test. Same here and here, and that's probably what's going on. Is this numbers to hide function is never called um, from any covered paths, um, which makes sense because typically this code should probably not exist here. Um, Typically, we would want this code to exist outside of the component so that we could isolate it and test it. So there's not anything in our tests that's exercising this code, which makes sense because our component tests are what are exercising this code. Um, so there we go. But our grid, oh, the pipe is what has low coverage. So I'm willing to bet we don't have any coverage on the pipe. Like the solver, yeah, we don't have any coverage here. Um, with the stores, this is what we're starting to write tests for, right? So some of our tests do exercise some of these features, but it would be good to get better coverage around these, especially like the branching coverage and the functional coverage. Statement coverage means a lot less to me the more and more that I work on stuff. Um, Statement coverage just means that hey, this line was hit in a test, but branching coverage shows that when you hit a branch, you're going different ways. Tests are getting more exercise than me. I know how you feel, man. But anyways, um, this is a report that you can generate. It's really easy to generate. You can do it with any with your NX workspace. All you need to do is just add the dash dash coverage flag to any of your commands, and it's going to work. Um, so let's fix up some stuff, right? One of the first things I wanted to take a look at is it's saying that we're configured to use the legacy cache, right? So let's copy. No, that's not what I wanted. So the only thing I miss going from Windows to or from Mac to Windows is the Warp terminal. That terminal is one of the best out there. Um, let's go take a look at their deprecated cache. Um, And how long have I been? So, man, um, I was just talking with somebody about this the other day. I started writing code professionally in 1998. So I've been developing, I'm almost to 30 years now, which is crazy to think about. Um, so that's a little bit crazy when you when you realize you've been writing code for a long time. Um, and um, I started, so my first professional coding career was writing code for survey companies. Um, and so I started out by basically using an internal scripting language to develop surveys that people would use to call people on the phone and bug them and ask them questions, right? Like, what kind of potato chips do you like, and things like that. Um, After a while, I became more and more comfortable with like professional coding, and I started developing tools that would work with the surveys that I wrote. So one of the tools that I wrote, um, there's a number that you track in in call centers, um, and that number represents, how many surveys people are completing per hour and things like that, and how many calls are they making per hour, and just all sorts of different stats. All that stuff was tracked. I started putting together dashboards and um, started even doing just a little bit of predictive modeling on things like that. And that got me into professional coding. And then from there, I um, started doing, well, part of that, like I've programmed on Sun Spark systems. Um, I, I wrote a lot of code in CA Clipper at the time, which is a crazy language, very similar to like Fox Pro or Pascal, would be where I would put it. Um, and then from there, I moved on to KSL Cars. KSL Cars used .NET. They used Java. They used um, they used NetBeans, um, and they used Spring for their front end. Um, and then they were purchased, and then that purchase went sour. But as part of the splitting, the company that purchased KSL Cars asked if I wanted to come along. I came along. They kept some servers and stuff, and I went along and worked there. And I worked in auto auctions for a long time. Um, and for the auto auctions, I developed Windows applications, I developed mobile applications, I developed a peer-to-peer network. But I always just keep coming back to the web. So yes, the cars place is why I was interested in the Vin app. I was actually surprised that I could do it for free. When I worked at the auto auction, I think we paid like, I don't even remember what the amount was. I want to say like 20K per year to be able to decode VINs. And maybe it was even monthly. I don't even remember, but we would every couple of weeks we would get this giant database that we'd have to load that would allow us to decode VINs. You want to become a game dev? Um, you haven't been alive 30 years? Yeah. Well, I've got the hair to prove that I've been alive for at least 30 years. Um, but um, game developing is really cool. Um, I'm actually the once we get our Sudoku game moved over, I want to write a Slay the Spire type game written entirely in Angular, but allowing players to create their own cards that can be added to the game. Um, so basically, a moddable game um, written in Angular, and the way you would mod it would be by adding the scripts that would add cards and stuff to the game. Um, I have a couple of ideas for how I want to do it. I also want to implement AI into the game. So have AI generate like descriptions about things, and different stuff like that. I want it to be highly customizable and highly configurable. Um, and games are so much fun. Um, yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. And it's always a little bit difficult when people show up because you're never sure if they're trolling you or whatever. Um, but I appreciate you showing up and just participating, man. It's really cool. Thank you. Um, yeah, the cars place is why I started getting into Vin stuff. Um, and yeah, it's just crazy to me that you can go get Vindicoder information for free on the internet after as much as we were paying for it. I imagine that they're still paying for Vindicoder information. Um, because I think some of those Vindicoder, like some of the Vindicoder databases give more information and they track more common options and things like that. So they say you have like I don't know, like a Ford F-150, right? One of the most popular pickup trucks sold in the US. There's so many optional packages that come along. Those optional packages might only be created at certain factories, and so the VINs will tell you which factories a car was created at, and so you can determine, oh yeah, this should only have this availability of certain packages or options or things like that. So you can pick like, oh yeah, this has the King Ranch package on my F-150, right? Which is a crazy level of options for your F-150 truck. Um, or maybe it's just a standard package or who knows what, but then it can pick the options for you and things like that. So it goes well. I'm busy with a platform game and I'm using AI for assets. Are you using the AI to generate the sprite sheets? Because that's really cool. Um, I do want to caution you just slightly. If you're going to sell the game, make sure you look into the licensing of the AI image generator that you're using. Okay, definitely take a look at the because I think like Midjourney and some of the other like bigger image generators might require you to get a special license to be able to sell images generated with their AI. So be careful with that. AI is a passion of mine too. So like locally, I run Comfy UI to do image generation. Comfy is pretty cool, but it's not easy. Um, but like most, I have to be careful pulling this site up because you're using open source gen. Do you know which open source you're using? Did you get your image generator off of like Hugging Face or did you get it off of Civet AI? Um, man, here we go. Like it's almost a meme anymore when people come into my stream, but um, let me. I want to be careful. I need to be careful here. Let me bring up this site. We'll be right back. Um, all right. So I may I may have to like turn things off. I don't want to get banned, and that's my big concern. And as you can see, things tend to trend a certain way with image generators. But there are some really good sprite generators out there. Um, if you guys are curious about that, like if we come up here and we search for sprite generators, um, um, so like this is a workflow for Comfy AI. This is a LoRa that will do like certain style of sprites, more LoRas. So these are all LoRas, and a LoRa is it's like a highly trained um, set of embeddings that you can add to your base model that will allow it to be better at generating certain kinds of things, right? So like um, this sprite sheet generator here, if we look at this, is giving like attack animations and all sorts of cool sprites. Um, and I'm being very, very careful um, because I am concerned um, that, I may have to shut things down really, really quickly. But um, these are really cool. The only thing to be aware of, um, and usually it shows up here, is the licensing on your models. Um, so it looks like this model doesn't have a license. And we can look over here. We can see that you can see, the training that they've got, what clip skip they suggest you use with it. Um, you can even see, the base model that they might recommend to use with it. This was created by Space Candy Media. Um, very, very cool site. Um, this is where you can get all sorts of amazing things. Like most of the new models are released here, and you can see, well, these are images, but like we go to the models. Um, this is a checkpoint. This is an illustrious checkpoint, the IL. I haven't worked with illustrious. I actually need to take a look at that one. This one's a pony checkpoint. It's a training of the XL model um, that seems to handle things better. And you've got a stable diffusion. This is probably a 1.5 checkpoint. I'm being very careful because usually the top models. Um, so Flux, this one's really cool. Flux is one of my favorite models right now. Um, Tencent is a pretty cool model. Um, but you can find all sorts of stuff here. Um, just be aware. Go in, sign in, fix your filters to whatever level that you're comfortable with, um, and it's a great site to work with. The other site that's a lot safer is like your Hugging Face site. Um, and Hugging Face is a really cool site. I love this site. This is where I get most of my AI models. You're using the basic open source gen. Okay. Um, but even within like Hugging Face, you can look for sprite sheets. Um, and so like this is going to be generating Pokemon style sprites, right? Um, and so this model, it's a LoRa, but it will generate Pokemon style sprites based on, these are the prompts that they give us, like Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean, and it generated a Pokemon style that, right? Like Harley Quinn. Um, so both sites are amazing and where I get a lot of my stuff from. Hugging Face and um, and Civet AI. But even here, if we look, um, so it doesn't look like, so they don't have, this README is the same file that we're seeing on the first page. The model card is the README. So I'm not seeing a license here. Um, but just, yeah, okay, okay. Then I'm preaching to the choir. Yeah. Um, be very, very careful. Most models that have a license with them will show that license, right? Um, and so um, it's becoming more and more common to see things with licenses. So um, good luck with that. Platformers platformers are fun games to write. I've written platformers before. I've never written good platformers. It's always hard to get platforming to feel right. So good luck, man. I'm really interested to see it. Um, anyway, get back into some code, right? Um, and every time I say that, somebody comes up with a new and better snipe. But we got distracted. We were looking at NX, right? The legacy cache. Um, this is a really easy one to fix to get rid of the legacy cache. You just have to find the use legacy cache in your nx.json and get rid of it. And so we will do that. nx.json. And inside of here, we've got use legacy cache at the very bottom. Um, so there we go. We get rid of that. And now if we go run our tests again, we'll do it without the coverage flag. We'll see that warning message that, hey, you're using the you know, the legacy cache is gone. Um, so a lot of what NX is doing is moving to the cloud. That's the other thing that we can take a look at is some cloud stuff. But I want to make sure that I get my cloud token set up properly before I start going into the cloud site for NX. Um, so maybe we can take a look at that tomorrow. Um, so yeah, there we go. We got rid of that message. There was one other thing that I wanted to take a look at within NX with the generators. And um, mental model, not here. It might be instead of here, let's take a look at like Jest. Where is Jest? Cypress, next, Nuxt, Vite, Webpack. Um, just look at here. Yeah. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Um, let's look for ESLint was a good one where I found it. So let's look at the ESLint plugin. Um, So under the ESLint generators, yeah, this is where I found it. So there's this notion of convert to inferred. Um, and we can convert a lot of the stuff that we're doing, like jest to inferred and ESLint to inferred. Hey, thanks for showing up. Um, 3 a.m. Oh, wow. So, yeah, thanks for showing up, and I appreciate I appreciate the word of confidence and stuff. But converting to inferred is actually pretty cool. Um, and we don't even have to do it for a specific one. We could just do it for everything. So if we just do pnpm nx, and we have to add the g, right? The to run the generator. So we can just say, hey, let's convert to inferred. And let's just throw a dry run flag on there and see what it would try to do, right? Um, so it's asking which one we want to run. Um, so let's start with ESLint and just see, hey, if we do a convert to inferred with ESLint, what would you do, right? And so it would update a whole bunch of project.jsons in nx.json. Really cool. Let's try again, and this time let's take a look at jest, right? Um, so if we convert our jest to inferred, it's going to again modify our project.json. Um, let me make sure that I've committed stuff before we do this. Oh, yeah. So remove legacy cache. And let's convert all of our tests over to inferred and just see what that does, right? So let's remove the dry run flag. We're going to run convert to inferred, and we're going to tell it, hey, we want to convert all of our jest tests over. So there we go. It updated a whole bunch of files for us. What files did we update, right? Project.json. So it put a bunch of stuff into our project.json. Here we got more into our project.json, and again, and again. But notice that it removed the executor, right? So it took out the executor, but it added stuff for our different configurations. And then in our nx.json, it added a plugin, right, for the jest plugin. And it said, hey, anywhere you encounter the target name of test, let's go ahead and run the jest plugin, right? So let's see if we broke anything, because it's highly likely that I break stuff. That's just what I do as a developer. But notice right away, hey, it's picking up all of our tests for us. And this is where Project Crystal really starts to shine, um, because we could add stuff that would also handle like our tests. So if we wanted to run something before we ran the generator, the NX jest tool, we could do that too. Yeah, I changed the token because I didn't want a writable token in my repo. So need to take a look at that. But notice that it ran the tests, even though we converted to standalone or to inferred tests. But there's more that we can find out about this. So like if we go, we take a look at, say for example, this library right here, and we click on the project.json. Notice that now we're getting a whole bunch of stuff. Um, so if we take a look at our tests, it's picking up, we've still got a jest test, even though here we aren't telling it that we're running jest at all, right? That's been moved here to our nx.json. But it is picking up that we've got tests. It's able to infer those. And not only that, um, we can see where it's being created from, right? Um, so it's being created from the project.json using the NX core project JSON. Um, we can also see how to run the tests. So we could copy this and run it. Um, and it's going to run our jest tests. It's also telling us, which options it's going to be run with. Um, and we can see, what are our inputs and outputs. And, when it's run in CI/CD, then we're going to also generate coverage, right? Which is cool. Um, so how does that vary from something like lint here? Um, I wonder if I need to refresh this to show, because I don't think this is showing that it's automatically generated. There's build storybook. Hmm. Oh well. Let's go ahead and commit that. Um, so we've converted over to inferred asks for test. And we're gonna convert to inferred tasks for linting. And I think I'm gonna leave it there. Um, so we'll go ahead and convert to inferred. And we're going to do the same for ESLint. But now that we're on inferred tasks, if we were to create a new library, it would create an inferred library for us. So again, it's making changes to the project.json files. So if we go take a look at the changes that were made, we'll see that, hey, it just removed the lint entirely. It did the same here, and it did the same here. It did the same here. So we can see that it's removing the lint from all of our stuff, but it's adding this plugin and saying, hey, we want an inferred lint. And it's going to use the NX ESLint plugin. So once we've done that, now if I do pnpm nx, and here we do a run many, I do a t lint, we should see that our linter still runs. But we can see from the files, like it's picking up our lint on all of these. Um, but we saw in the project JSON that it removed all the lint stuff, right? So now we're completely inferred on our ESLint. It was a little bit more difficult to see with the testing because testing has like output files and it has, inputs that, hey, this has to be compiled before we can run this. Linting isn't that way. And so it's just able to completely remove the linter um, from our file, right? And we can see, hey, we've got some errors here that we've got some missing files. So it would be interesting to take a look at that. And we've got some commented out tests, which we don't want, but we're in a better place because we've removed all of those, and instead they're now down here in the plugins. And if we go back into our WebStorm, we were in WebStorm, never mind. Um, if we pop this open and we go back to our project JSON, um, we can see, hey, we've got lint here still. It's still cacheable. Um, and we can see, the commands to run it. We can see, um, it even recognizes, hey, we're using PNPM, so it shows, we can pass help to it. And we've got default inputs and outputs. But this is all automatically generated. And we can see that inside of here, we don't even have a lint option set, right? So our project JSON no longer has lint set, but it is being inferred by ESLint. Um, and I think these icons may denote that. I need to do a little bit more research on that, but um, big, it's a big help, and you can set that up by just running the. I need to remove. You can set it up by running the PNPM generator convert to inferred, and that's just going to take all of your libraries, or you can target it at a specific library, right? Um, all of your libraries and all of your apps, and it will convert them to inferred for whatever you're using. Um, let's go ahead and commit this, and then let's get back into our testing. But I have been wanting to show this for a while because I find inferred projects to be really interesting because you can add plugins, right? Um, and you can add plugins for non-inferred, um, but it's really cool that hey, we could add this plugin, and we could add another plugin targeting lint, um, or like testing, right? Like maybe we want to write out a file for our test. That test would use a certain port for outputs, or who knows what, right? Like whatever we're doing, we could add a plugin that would do that for us. And that's definitely something I want to take a look at here in the near future. Um, but let's convert to inferred or lint. So there we go. We've converted some stuff over to inferred. We removed the legacy cache. Before the stream, I upgraded some stuff. So we're in a good place. Um, so let's take a look at what we need to write. Like I would like all of these features to have tests around them, and potentially the solvers, but we'll take a look at that later, right? So like the game one feature, um, we've got no tests around this feature. Uh, so we don't know if it actually works. Um, man, Michael, was it you that showed me the events? I cannot wait for them to show up because this with hooks stuff that we're doing would be perfectly replaced with that. But when we get to xState, we may not need a lot of this stuff. Um, so we've got a couple of features like this with check grid completed. We aren't going to test that one. Um, so really, all we need to do is fire this up with a grid and have it in a couple of states and just make sure that it, yeah, the events. So to test this one, we just need to generate a couple of grids, um, and then make sure that they come back. Yeah, and that like I love Rainer's events toolkit, but having it in the library will be it'll be nice. Um, so the first thing we can do is we can generate a new TypeScript file. This file will be called game one dot feature dot spec.ts. There we go. So now we've got our feature in place. And one thing I want to point out um, is, oh, we did use, no, we didn't. We used, so we're using Spectator to test these. So we can see these here. So let's do the same. Um, yeah, we'll use Spectator. So what we've done is we've set up our own signal store and we bring in the stuff that's necessary for with pencil marks, and then we can run our tests on it. Um, so we'll do the same here, right? So we'll start with the describe. Um, so we will describe um, game one feature. Yeah, that works, right? Um, and I recently saw tons of people are saying that I should get away from Copilot and start using Cursor. Um, let's take a look at what it's saying. Oh, wow. I don't think this is right. Like I like this one right here. Um, it, that works. Let's go ahead and bring in Signal Store. No. Let's also bring in with grid. Let's also bring in with game one. So there we go. The next thing we want to do, yep, that works. So that's going to create our service factory, which is going to allow us to do the stuff with spectator. So there we go. And right here, it, well, actually, let's group this. Describe, um, let's say has errors, right? And um, so um, it should have false for game one if there are errors. And actually, I want to group this differently. Let's describe, um, let's say here, we want this one to be grid not filled out, right? And then the other one we want is we want with the grid filled out, right? And so here it should not be one, right? Um, and the game one feature, if we take a look at it, actually, I think it's just game one, right? And that comes from the grid state. Um, well, and let's go one um here. Let's say describe grid is empty, right? Um, so this test right here should actually go up into here, right? Um, so that's our first test. Um, so let's go ahead and just run this test and make sure it passes. Um, we're going to say pnpm run, and we want to run components test with a watch on it. This fits into our components. And notice that it's changed the way um, our commands are run. It's now saying just pass with no tests true. Um, we're getting warnings about setup jest, but this is NX stuff that it's doing. And then the puny code is also NX stuff. But we passed, right? So it's saying, hey, the grid is empty. Should not be one. Um, so we're good there, and we can test that. We're actually running this test properly by testing for true here. Um, and it's going to recompile. It's going to say, hey, we failed because we expected true, but we got false. So we can see that that one is working. Um, so the next thing to take a look at is like, um, so it should not be one if the grid is mostly filled out, but not totally filled out, right? Um, so again, what we could say is, oh, that actually isn't too bad. It doesn't like the set cell value. And I believe we were using, yeah, create cell state was the function we were using. So we can just do create cell state, boom, and boom. So there we go. That will set just the top one to have a value in it. And so now these both pass. So if the grid is empty, it should not be one. If the grid is not filled out, it should not be one. And we're on our way, right? Um, but it would be nice if we could, um, test like bigger values, and that's where we'll so first thing we can do is we can just say, hey, we're going to create a service. Does that work? I'm very curious what that does. So we're looping over every column and we're just putting I times 9 plus j percent 9. See, this feels a little bit off to me. Um, that one, really. Let's just console log grid state, the spectator dot service dot grid. I'm just curious what the grid is outputting here. Um, the toolkit just got doxed recently. It's not real until Jason has said, "Hey." I'm very curious. Like, so row 8, column 4 has 5. I want to see. Let's let's just map this. Yeah, that'll work. That's all I want to see is like what does it look like? Um, so it'll run it again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Um, interesting. So let's take a look at this. So it's state.check grid completed. Okay, so it's just checking that the state or the grid um, has been completed. We aren't doing any error checking. So all we need to do is just make sure that the grid is filled out, and that's what it's doing. That's why it's passing. Even though technically it shouldn't pass, like according to Sudoku rules, right, having 1 through 9 in every row, um, right, the columns are all wrong. And even within the regions, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is wrong, but it doesn't matter. Because all it's doing is checking that it should be 1 if no error, right? Um, so we can take this out. We don't need this anymore. Um, but this is actually kind of lame. um, because we don't need this. This math is stupid. Um, it's incredibly stupid because really it could just be j plus 1. Um, we don't even have to do that, right? We could set it to any value, right? Um, really, we don't even need to do the math, right? We could just set it to be 5. Um, and it would be fine with it. And I don't even think we need the region here. Do I need region? No. I don't need region here also. Oh, I do need region. Um, so really, we just need to make sure that the grid is filled out. It doesn't really care what it's filled out with. Um, and so function equals pills. I haven't used nested for loops in a while. Yeah, well, and uh, like this is fine. Um, I actually would consider this to be a normal way to traverse this, right? Um, I mean, we could absolutely go through and do like, this dot grid dot rows for each and this dot, row dot cell for each and whatever, right? This is perfectly fine. Um, and I'm good with it. Um, it's not checking errors, and I don't care if it does, right? So the next one should be, it should not be one if there's an error, right? Um, so let's see what we get here. No. Um, so what we want to do here is we actually want to spectator dot service dot set. See, what we want is error. Because if we look at the game one feature, we're checking um has error, right? Has error. Um, and here, can we set that? No. So we need a way to update our has error. Um, so what we can do is up here, um, we can just add a method, right? We can say that, hey, we've got a signal, because like game one is just a function that returns the value of a signal store feature. So we can just say, hey, signal store feature. Let's bring that in. Um, and so really all we want to do is be able to patch the state. Um, so we want a couple of things on here. Um, yeah, that'll work. So we're gonna say, hey, we want to type because we want to be able to update it. Um, and our type is going to be of type. State is going to be, um, if we look at the top up here, our state is just a grid state. So we can do the same. We can say, hey, we want a grid state for our state. And we'll import that. Why is it not picking up my grid state? Oh, because I spelled it wrong. I spelled it grid state. There's my grid state. And then the other thing we want is we want with, no, we don't even need that. So now we've got our grid state. Now we can just say, hey, we want method. We'll need to import with methods. And our method is going to have a state, and it's going to return some methods. Let's bring in with methods. There we go. And what am I doing wrong with my signal store feature? I need an unused generic type. Okay. Cool. And I probably need a function call here. No, it needs to be here, right? You know what? Instead of doing this, trying to do it all in line and try to figure it out, let's just grab it. And here we will just add the with update error. Right, is that, I always forget. Um, yeah, and then I just return the signal store feature. With update error, boom, underscore, boom. And we'll get this, and then we will return my signal store feature. Boom. And I will need to import that. Wait, where did that go? Yeah, signal store that. With update error, signal store feature. Need another friend there, right? The with update error, signal store feature. What am I? Turn signal store feature that. Probably just need to do my with methods, right? With my state. And then here we can just do update error. And we can just say error boolean. And we can actually even say error equals false. And here we can just say no. We can say patch state. And we want to patch the state with error. And here we'll rename this to has error. So that we can do that here. And this just adds in the with update error. Got something wrong here. Okay. That matches with that. I need one more here. What is my error here? Missing a semicolon. So now I should be able to go here and should be able to say that we set the update error to true. And I don't know why it's detecting all of this as being my patch state isn't working. Like, why is it picking this up as being method null has a high cognitive because this function here it doesn't like my complexity. This is a problem. Got a score of 18. Um, but I'm more concerned that it's not picking up the error. Let's see if I move that there. There we go. We're getting our recompile. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. So if I put this here, it's actually not setting the fascinating. The game one feature. Oh, look at that. This is wrong. Um, we just discovered a bug. Give it a boom, 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 boom on the boom meter. This is wrong. Um, really, what we need to do, um, is we should add a with state. With state. Um, and our with state. Oops, nope, don't do that. We want to import this. And here, we don't want game one. We want grid completed. So here, grid completed is going to start out as false. And then this is not going to be update game one. This is going to be update game completed. And grid completed is going to be a Boolean. And then we are going to hatch state. We're going to set grid completed here. That's going to fix that. But the next thing we want to do is update game completed here. And want this here, but now our game one is a problem. And the reason it's a problem is that it's on the grid, but we want it to be computed. So here on our grid feature, we have this with state, initial state. And this is wrong. We don't want this anymore. It can't be there, which means in the grid state, we can't have our game one here either. And this is why testing is important, because we actually had a bug. So in our game one, feature here, we want a property on it now. So we want to say with props. So here we go. Here's our prop with props. And we're going to say that game one is computed, which we need to import from the signals. And this is an important thing to realize, is that we should compute what we can. So here we want to output, is the grid completed? But we also want state.has error and state.grid completed. And what's my problem here? Oh, I need a comma. So that should fix up my tests. And now my tests should pass regardless of when Oh, patch state game one in grid feature. That no longer makes sense. Um, this is going to wind up being a bigger fix than originally intended. Um, so in my grid.feature, we've got this method here. Update game one. We don't want that anymore. I've got 3 failing now. And um, now what's failing? Update game one. Game one feature is expecting that to be there. Let's take a look at my update game one feature. Um, yeah, we don't expect this to be there anymore. We're not going to call that ever. It's now computed. Um, the reset feature is also expecting to have a game one. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, did I make a mess. So the reset feature, let's go fix up the reset feature. So reset feature, signal store feature, but it expects the game one to be there. We don't have game one anymore. Let's take that out. So I hear you like objects. Exactly. Let's put objects in your objects, brother. Um, okay, we're getting closer, I hope. Um, let's tell it to run only failed tests. Um, what did I break? Here. Spectator.service.update error true. Expect that to be false. Okay, so game one is still coming back. It's true. Why would it be true now? Let's take a look. Let's just console.log. Yeah, we'll just log game one. We received true, but it should not be true. Oh, it should be true because I told it to be true. Um, it only returns true if we have an error. That's not right. It should be true if we don't have an error. I introduced another bug. So now we should pass. Um, and there we go. So now we pass. So that's a good thing. Um, and we've got passing tests. So let's get that committed. But I'm concerned we may have broken some other stuff. So the game one feature, we added tests for that. Um, so here we'll just say we added tests for um, game um, with Sith. Must have Star Wars on the brain. Game one. I cannot type. So the with game one feature, there we go. And then we went in and we fixed up a bug. Um, so we fixed a bug with how game one was computed, right? Because we were caching it on the state. We don't need it. I say testing pass. I feel you some days on that one, Michael. Um, there's some days where I'm like, oh, testing? Really? You want me to do testing? All right. So let's just make sure. Yes, let's terminate the batch job. So pnpm nx serve. So it's warning me about HMR, which Michael has done a lot to help clean up. Um, thank you for that, Michael. So let's go localhost 4200. Well, that's interesting. So this is actually picking up my sepia also. Um, so I should have made that change for the other one. I actually like let's make this local host. Let's turn the brightness. That doesn't work. Um, but let's wait. Where's my sepia here? There we go. There we go. You just have to know how to use your tools. Um, that's not bad. Now if I go here, That's kind of ugly, but it was expected. Um, so we're doing dark for everything except for my local host, which looks okay. Um, hopefully it's not too bright. Um, so provide animations async. I do want to take a look at animations and stuff. But the other thing I want to do is let's just refresh this. And let's just add a problem grid and let's see if we can solve it. And let's see if we actually get a game one. Yes. So we do get game one. So I don't need to cache the game one. So we found a bug. Well, that's awesome. This is like this fix right here has been in the game for who knows how long, right? We found this bug, we fixed this bug, and the nice thing about this is by finding it, we've been able to, right? If we set the error before we fill out the grid, it should still pass. Um, if we set it after we set up the grid, it should still pass, right? And that's an important part of testing, right? Um, and we should create these two tests actually. Um, if error before filling grid, um, and you want another one, if error after filling grid. Um, and we can move this one. Oh, what am I doing? Instead of duplicating the line, let's try moving it. There we go. So both of these should pass. And then we'll know we've got, then we'll know that we've got good tests, right? So before filling and after filling. So both of those tests pass. We're in a good place. Um, there we go. So let's go ahead and commit these. And I think I might call it here for the night. I will be back tomorrow. I'm thinking around like 10 or 11 a.m. Just really depends on when I'm ready to stream, and I've got a couple of things I need to do in the morning. But once I get those done, then I want to stream for maybe an hour or two, and then get back into stuff that I'm working on. Um, so I'll be back tomorrow. We'll work on some more unit tests. Hopefully we can get all of these fixed. But this is the thing that I really like about using Spectator along with just testing features, right? Because I can isolate the feature and we can create our own custom features that allow us to create a store that behaves the way we want it to behave. Um, yeah, yeah, midday stream. There, so if you guys don't know, I left Bill on Friday, so I've got a bunch of extra time. So while I'm looking for a job, I figure I may as well keep my skills sharp and, I'll do some streaming during the day. It'll give me a chance to do some stuff that I've wanted to do. Um, and hopefully potentially stream at some different times to give people a chance to see what's going on. Um, so definitely looking forward to um, streaming at a time that will be friendly to like Europeans tomorrow, right? 10 or 11 a.m. seems to be friendly to Europeans. Um, in the evening is more friendly to like the US. Well, let me rephrase that. More friendly to time zones, right? Because like Europeans, Indians, Central Asia, Africans, early morning will be much better, um, right? Um, and even some parts of Asia, some other parts of Asia, right, in Australia become better in the evening, and the US, like during the week, is better during the evening, right? So I'll be streaming at just like random times over the next few days. Tomorrow I'm gonna try out streaming during the day in the morning, and then on Thursday I'll be streaming at my normal time, and then maybe on Friday I may stream somewhere early afternoon, like 1 or 2 p.m. Um, and then I'll be taking Saturday off, and then Sunday my normal time. But just the way, wait, is today's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, Friday. Yep, yep. Doing math in my head, or not math, but counting out days in my head. Um, but we'll be streaming a lot more over the next little bit, just so I can do some stuff that I'm interested in, and bring some other ideas to you guys. I want to take a look at like NX generators, and build some generators with you guys. Um, I also want to get further along the line of xState. So yeah. Hey, no problem. I really enjoy streaming with you guys, and thank you for being here, Michael. Always a lot of fun to talk to you. And thank you for all the stuff you share. Like, so helpful. Really appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you again tomorrow.